Hi everyone, and welcome back to Writing Tips with the GSEP Writing Support. My name is Julie Stigmeyer, and I work for the Graduate School of Education and Psychology for Pepperdine University. And today I want to talk to you about how to get started on a writing assignment. Sometimes getting started is the hardest part of the assignment because we might feel overwhelmed and thus procrastinate. And that all might be due to the fact that we are not sure where to start. However, if you can start your assignment early, it will help you to be more successful because you can take your time to research. Research is often a time-consuming process. You might have a couple of searches you use. You take where you're looking at the Pepperdine databases. You might go back and forth. You might have to ask a librarian a question. You might have to get a resource emailed to you. So it can take some time. Also, to revise thoroughly and really do a good job with it, you have to come at it several different times with several different passes. You can't just write the rough draft and expect that to be finished. So revising is often a lengthy process. And if you start early, you'll have more time to consult with your professor if necessary, or with writing support. And that helps you to avoid your last minute stress. So the first strategy I'd like to pass along is to analyze the assignment. Try to break it down into pieces or parts, create an outline from those parts, and then write according to each section. Here's an example assignment. This was something from a psychology class, and this is just a portion of the prompt that was given, and I thought I'd share this as an example. What we see here is questions for consideration and guidance. Then we have number 1, identify a diagnosis for your identified character. Describe your rationale for your diagnosis. 3 is describe any historical, familial, and environmental circumstances that have impacted your character's current worldview. So as you may have guessed, this is an assignment where you watch a movie and then you analyze a character based on these different considerations. So the way I would break this down into an outline is something like this. So this professor already kind of did that for you, where you have the diagnosis section. So maybe you identify the diagnosis first, then identify the rationale. And then this would be, a second major section where you're identifying these different types of circumstances. So your outline sketched out so far might look something like this. And you might have your diagnosis section, maybe a short paragraph for the actual diagnosis, a couple of paragraphs for the rationale as needed. Then you have the next major section, which is other circumstances. Maybe a paragraph or 2 for historical, 1 for familial, 1 for environmental, etc. So this would be a great start to your paper, and you could watch the movie, take some notes, and then start putting it together. The second strategy is to think about types of assignments. And I wanted to point out 2 particular types of assignments, which are literature reviews and intake reports. These are fairly common with the psychology students. And you might also see an annotated bibliography, which is before you would have that literature review assignment. So it might be that you have to consult with your professor or writing support in order to understand how these types of assignments may be different from other things you've written in the past. My third strategy for you is to plan out your term. Even if you already have a good outline or a good plan and you don't feel you need further help, it can be difficult to stay on track because you're not only writing papers, but you're also taking quizzes, attending class, and you have regular life to deal with. So what I recommend is using a calendar or an agenda and take each of your assignments and break them down into parts and then plan specific parts for the weeks throughout the term. And then I also heard a student say, give yourself a reward as you meet goals. So this student says she would reward herself with watching a Netflix show or baking herself a batch of cookies or something like that. Um, and it's up to you if you want to use a digital electronic type of calendar like Google Calendar, or if you use a paper calendar. I've gone back to using a paper agenda after using Google Calendar for a couple of years. And I find it just helps me better if I have it laid out in front of me on my desk. Then you can think about breaking your assignment into parts. Maybe you have to, of course, do the research first. So you'd say, okay, 2 weeks for research or whatever it would be, 1 week for research. The next week would be create the outline. The next week would be, write 3 paragraphs, that kind of thing. So however you can break it down within your time frame. So those are some tips for how to get started. Please get in touch if you need more tips, strategies, or advice. We're always here to support you. Until next time, happy writing.